It's story time with Mel Robbins, and here's what we're talking about today. If you think your life is a mess, wait until you hear what a train wreck I used to be. That's right. Today, we are going to go all the way back a couple decades to 20-something-year-old Mel Robbins when I was a complete freaking train wreck. So for all of my 20-year-olds in their 20s trying to figure out life, you think you're a train wreck, you think you're a mess, you're waking up hungover on the weekends with lots of regret about who you hooked up with. I got you covered. I got you beat. Wait till you hear what my life was like when I was in my early 20s in law school. For those of you in your 30s where you're like, I'm never going to be happy. I don't know what to do with my life. You in your 40s. You're not happy. There must be more to this. If you're going through a divorce, if you're dealing with addiction, no matter what you're dealing with, that makes you think your life is a mess, that makes you believe that you're a train wreck. Trust me when I tell you, the law school 20-something version of Mel Robbins is a human being that was so out of control, you will not even recognize the person I'm about to describe. Hell, I might have a panic attack or a PTSD flashback as I am reading to you from the High Five Habit. So here we go. That's what story time's about today. And I'm also going to tell you how I started to turn it around. For those of you that want to follow along with your New York Times bestseller, The High Five Habit, we're going to start on page 67 today. Here we go. This is a chapter called Am I Broken? One of the worst periods of my life was during law school. So this would have been 1991. 1991, little Mel Robbins was 23 years old. One of the worst periods of my life was during law school, which is where my anxiety that had building since childhood culminated in a wildly self-destructive streak. For 3 years straight, I woke up in a panic because once I got to law school, I knew I didn't want to be a lawyer. But since I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life, I had no idea what else to do but to keep going to law school. I was constantly on edge. I was stressed out, falling behind. And you know what? My thoughts, my actions, my habits, they just made those feelings of being behind worse. Plus, I was surrounded by all of these people who were excited to be in law school. And that just made me feel like I didn't belong in law school. So I felt so alone. And on top of this, if this isn't bad enough, knowing that you're in a place that you don't belong, in a place that you can't stand, how many of you can relate to this because of what your life is like right now? The job that you have, the school that you're going to, the friends that you hang out, you just feel like you don't belong. You kind of have the sense that you're not supposed to be in this career or in this relationship or in this friend group or whatever it may be, or stuck in these habits, but you don't know what else to do, so you just keep going. This was my life. I get it. You know, in law school, I hated all the reading and writing that are requirements for being a lawyer. And plus, I didn't know a lot about myself. I didn't even know at the age of 23 that I had dyslexia or ADHD. I just thought, I'm a fucking train wreck here and I am lost and I don't know what to do. So let me tell you about my daily routine. Wake up hungover. Think, oh my God, I'm late again. Why do I keep doing this? Stare at the ceiling, thinking about my classes for the day and how behind I am on my homework. Then I would light a cigarette. I would race around the apartment. Then I would drive to Dunkin' Donuts. I would order the biggest cup of coffee with cream and 3 sugars. Then I would head to class. And as I was sitting in class, I would panic about being called on. Then I'd pick at a salad for lunch. I'd sit alone in the library. I'd try to study. I would literally procrastinate for hours talking to friends. Then I'd drive home. I'd have an anxiety attack because I hadn't done anything all day. Then I'd split a bottle of wine with my roommate. I would fall asleep drunk in my bed. And I would wake up hungover, and this routine would repeat. Now, this was the perfect routine, not for excelling at light or getting clear. This was the perfect routine, everybody, for creating a big, fat, terrifying life for myself. And guess what? It didn't stop there. You see, once you're kind of in a self-destructive routine, it typically gets worse before it gets better. Now, I repeated this routine every single day for 3 years. And, as I sit here and read this, I can kind of try to be kind of funny and laugh it off. But here's the truth, you guys. Like, my armpits are sweating right now. I have like tension in my stomach. I feel my heart constricting. I'm starting to feel the anxiety of what 23-year-old law school student stuck, freaked out Mel Robbins, self-destructive Mel Robbins felt like. I spent the entire 3 years of law school anxious, disassociated, disconnected, in denial. And I don't actually remember a lot of it because of how on edge I was. Now, if you look at my patterns of thought and behavior during that period, if you look at the choices I was making every single day, here's a truth that I believe. Your behavior doesn't lie. Your feelings can lie, but your behavior never lies. If you look at your behavior objectively, you will be able to predict where you're going to be a year from now. I could see that my behavior had me locked in a painful and broken cycle. The negative thoughts, which were basically like, you're a train wreck, you screwed up again, you're never going to amount to anything, you're never going to figure this out. They were such a barrage that I couldn't focus on anything. I mean, forget about reading law school books. All I could focus on was surviving the day. And here's the thing. When you start surviving, it's like treading water. It's not like you're going to win a swim race because you have a beautiful stroke and you can gain control. You are literally just trying to keep your head above water. That's what my life was like. That's what 23-year-old Mel felt like. Just survive the damn day. And the more that I stayed in that cycle, and the more that I repeated that cycle of wake up late, wake up hungover, reach for the cigarette, don't eat anything, drive and get a cup of coffee, sit and freak out, procrastinate, the more on edge I felt. Because behavior doesn't lie. Negative thoughts, by the way, and these negative behaviors, they fry your nervous system. And they create a downward spiral. And it can get so bad, this is what happened to me, like you have no idea how to escape that centrifugal force of things spiraling negative out of control. And, here's the thing that I've learned. When you feel like a train wreck, and when you keep repeating destructive patterns day in and day out because you don't know how to break them, it gets worse before it gets better. Anybody of you got some life experience with this? Any of you could feel yourself spiraling toward rock bottom? You knew it was coming and all you could do was brace? Well, that was me. And, if you think I botched up my first year of law school, just fasten your seatbelt because, boy, I was just getting started. Did I really screw up things second and third year? Wait till you hear about my first summer in law school. This is a story most people don't know about me. That first summer of law school, I interned at the Attorney General's office in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Now, the Attorney General asked me to do a research project on recidivism rates in Michigan. Now, this was an incredible opportunity for a law school student. I am basically working for the highest ranking lawyer in an entire state, the Attorney General. And the Attorney General has asked me to do a research project. And the research project would have not only allowed me to learn a lot about a topic I cared about, but it would have also been an incredible building block for my resume. Working directly for the #1 attorney for the state of Michigan? Holy shit. But check this out. I was such a train wreck, I didn't know how to pull it together. I was 23-year-old Mel Robbins. I was so overwhelmed by a project that size, I didn't even start it. I didn't even start it. Can you imagine going into your summer job every single day and pretending that you're working on something for the head person and you haven't even started it and you're not even working on it? I mean, can you imagine the stress? Holy shit. I didn't even crack one book open to work on it. Not one. Here we go again, everybody. My anxiety, and I bet you, how many of you feel on edge just hearing this story? Just hearing this story. My anxiety was so constant, I don't even remember driving back and forth to the Attorney General's office, which was a 50-minute drive from North Muskegon, Michigan, all the way to Grand Rapids, Michigan. Each way, I don't remember driving back and forth 5 days a week that summer. You see, that's what happens when you're so on edge and so out of control. Your nervous system is so on edge, your brain is not even present. It's not functioning properly. Now, here's something I do remember. I remember the Attorney General calling me into his office near the end of the summer. So we're talking August of 1992. I'm 23 years old, standing there in my little suit. My face was bright red. I was sweating through my suit jacket, and he was asking me about the progress on the project. I made up a bazillion excuses for why I didn't have anything to show him and the reason. I just lied. I stood there and literally, I might as well have been tap dancing with a freaking tea kettle on my head because I was just freestyling all kinds of excuses and reasons and this and that, delay, stall, like look over here, distract. And then I walked out the door of his office and I never went back. I never went back. I walked out the door and never went back. I didn't even quit, you guys. I just disappeared. You know, I was apparently ghosting people 3 decades ago before it was something that we were all talking about now. You know, it's honestly so embarrassing. That's why I don't ever really talk about this story until now. Now it's in print in my New York Times bestselling book, The High Five Habit. Now another year I landed, so the next year I landed an amazing summer job at a law firm in New Mexico. And a week before I was supposed to get on a plane in Boston, Massachusetts, where I was going to law school, and fly across country to New Mexico, where I'd landed yet another job. I mean, we all know they never called the AG for a reference, right? I had a massive panic attack. Literally, a massive panic attack over the thought of getting on a plane by myself, something I had hated to do, to fly across country and live by myself for the summer in a place I had never been, all of the unknown, all of the uncertainty, all of it. Plus, I hated law school. I hated being studying the law. I didn't want to do it. And you know what I did? I called the law firm in New Mexico and I lied. I said there had been a family emergency and I couldn't come for the summer. A lie. And does this sound like the Mel Robbins that you know? You know, as you listen to this story and you think about what a train wreck I used to be when I was in law school in my 20s, you know, it's easy to kind of see how it kind of starts with a fear. I can't handle this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm stuck. I got no choice. I can't do this. And that thought of I can't, or I'm not capable, or I'm not worthy, then triggers all of this negative energy and all of these negative feelings in your body. And then all of a sudden, when you have negative thoughts like, I can't do this, and negative feelings like, oh my God, I hate feeling like this. I don't want to feel like this. I feel on edge. All of that then triggers a knee-jerk negative response. And my knee-jerk negative response to cope with anxiety in situations I couldn't control everybody was to run away from them or to lie. That's what I did at the Attorney General's office. I ran away from the project. I lied about what I was doing, and then I ran away from the job. I did that with this job across country that I didn't think I could handle. I ran away from it, and then I lied. And this was a pattern that I repeated that started to become my reaction to every single situation of uncertainty. This is how patterns happen, everybody. You get triggered by something, you respond, and all of a sudden, the response works. It worked to lie because I got out of it. It worked to run away because I didn't have to face the shit that scared me. But the problem is you're left with a pattern that blows of lying, of running away, of being paralyzed by uncertainty. Does this sound like me? Of course not. And see, the problem with these kind of patterns is that, once you start spiraling, it's going to take some kind of force to break the spin that you're in. And I want to emphasize while we're talking today about, you think you're a mess? Meet law school 23-year-old Mel Robbins. She was a train wreck. I want to emphasize the fact that your negative thoughts and the negative feelings that you feel in your body, this is where we got to go to work, everybody. Because negative thoughts are going to rise up and you're going to have negative feelings of uncertainty, feelings of panic, feelings of overwhelm, feelings of not being good enough, feelings of stress, feelings of abandonment. All of that's going to rise up, and you can't control the fact that it rises up, but you can notice it and you can intervene. And this is what the adult Mel Robbins knows. This is what I'm going to be teaching you. This is what the High Five Habit is all about, breaking these patterns that are bringing you down. Because, when you're really used to feeling on edge, and when you're used to being beaten down, and when you're used to constantly worrying, and when you're used to defaulting to negative thinking, you may not even realize that this is the default way that you go through life. I mean, I certainly didn't. And you also don't realize how these thoughts and these feelings, when you keep listening to it and you keep responding to it on automatic, how it's creating a life that you don't want. Now, of course, here's the thing. Of course, I wanted to be successful. Of course, I wanted to be strong. Of course, I wanted to do a great job on that research project for the AG. Of course, I wanted to get on a plane and fly across country and have an adventure living in a part of the country that I love. New Mexico? Hello! How beautiful is that? How cool would have that been? But my mind was so attached and invested and used to, I can't handle this. I mess everything up. Nothing works out for me. I'm a fuck up. I'm a mess. That I could not figure out how to look at a project that I'd never done that felt overwhelming and encourage myself to do it. I couldn't look at the summer job in New Mexico because my default way of thinking is, you can't fucking handle this. You're a fucking screw up. Like, you're basically failing through law school or coasting or lying. Nobody's figured it out yet. But dude, like, you can't do that. That as soon as something felt overwhelming, I immediately ran away. I immediately shot it down. I immediately started lying to myself, because it is a lie. Me telling myself, you messed it up, you can't handle it, that's a lie, Mel Robbins. And so, naturally, once I bailed on these two opportunities, it only made me feel worse about myself. And that just deepens the spiral. More negative thoughts, more shame, which just takes your spirit right down with it. And this is so important. I got to repeat it, everybody. When your negative thoughts increase, you're going to get trapped in the spin cycle of catastrophic thinking. And that's basically law school. My entire 3 years of law school was me trapped in a habit, a loop, a pattern of catastrophic thinking. I piled on so much negativity. You can't do this. You're going to fail. You're in the wrong place. You're stuck. You screwed up again. Holy cow. Everyone's going to find out. That I basically suffocated underneath these things until I hit rock bottom. It's almost like there was a giant sledgehammer that smashed my life into pieces, but I was the one who was wielding the sledgehammer. And no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, I could not seem to fix the fact that I was literally lying, running away, faking it, on edge, and doing nothing but engaging in self-destructive behavior and habits all day long. Holy shit. Now, I had none of the tools that I talk about in this book and I talk about online all the time. I didn't know the link between my childhood trauma and my self-destructive behavior. I didn't know how to stop believing that the bad things prove that I was a bad person. I was so ashamed of what I kept thinking and doing, and yet I just kept doing the things I was ashamed of. And so I did what most human beings do when they find themselves in a shame spiral and they find themselves feeling all kinds of negative things. I just tried to numb what I was feeling. And there's a million ways you can numb yourself. You can bury your pain with alcohol, with drugs, with impulsive shopping, with porn, with emotional eating. Are you counting? Because I did a lot of those things and I did something else. And so the story's about to get even worse, you guys. I started cheating on my law school boyfriend with an ex from college because psychologists will tell you sex in secrecy, it is an intoxicating stress reliever. And there is no bigger rush of dopamine than having an orgasm with somebody that you're cheating with, except for having an orgasm with somebody that you're deeply in love with and committed to. But that said, I will tell you that all of this shit that I was doing is also a powder keg of destruction that will implode your life. And that's exactly what happened to me. Because eventually both my law school boyfriend and my ex from college found out what I was doing. And, you know, look, the irony's not lost on me because my immediate reaction is, for fuck's sake, you can't even cheat correctly? You fail at this too, Mel? And, you know, how screwed up is it that my default is not, I got to fix this, but wow, you're even screwing up the screwing up. That's how screwed up you are. That's some grade A dysfunction, Mel Robbins. And, you know I'm being kind of flamboyant as I read this to you. I am not proud to admit the things that I did while I was trying to survive a life that felt like it was completely out of control. I'm telling you this story to prove to you that if you're trapped right now, if your life is a mess, if you're a train wreck, if you keep engaging in self-destructive patterns of behavior, there's a way out. I mean, look at me. I'm an example. There is a way out. That used to be me, and I don't even recognize that person anymore. If I can change, you can change. And, you know, look, this is not my comeback story at this point in law school. But luckily, my big crash and burn, both of these guys finding out about each other and confronting me about it, led me to the place where my lifelong journey with personal growth began. The therapist couch. It was there as a 25-year-old that I began to understand that I was doing this to myself. Not intentionally, of course, just like you're not intentionally doing the shit that's self-destructive to yourself. But that for me, I had childhood trauma and patterns of thinking, belief, and behavior that had become patterns, habits, loops that were the default, that were stored in the subconscious parts of my mind. They just ran on autopilot. And they kept taking me down these crazy self-destructive paths when life got scary or uncertain or I was triggered. Now, with the guidance of my therapist at the age of 25, I was finally able to face what had happened to me and all the horrible things that I'd done to survive. She also helped me see that I had to take responsibility for all the fucking shit I did in my life from here on out. Like, once you kind of have this awakening, you got to draw a line in the sand and be like, I'm not responsible for the things that were done to me that caused the trauma or that have created these patterns of survival and coping. But now that I realize that I can heal and I have a choice and I want to change these patterns, there's a fucking line in the sand. And I am taking responsibility for what happens next. Period. Full stop. I'm taking control of my life. And, I had to face a lot of stuff that was really uncomfortable. I was honest about the things that I did that led me way down the road of self-destruction and led me really far from who I knew I really was. And, that's the interesting thing about being messed up or a train wreck or really stuck or super self-destructive. Intrinsically in your heart and soul, this is not who you are. But you feel this despair because you're not sure how to get back to yourself, how to find the door and how to grab the handle and how to open it. So, I literally, and here's one other thing I want to say. You're really lucky. When I was 20, 22, 23, 25, and don't make yourself wrong if you're older than that and you're watching this, I had no idea what habits were or, what personal development meant or what self-awareness was. I mean, going into a therapist, you basically pulled your hood up over your head and hid your identity. I mean, who went to a therapist 3 decades? There's something really wrong with you. Holy shit. This was before podcasts, online courses, self-help books. You didn't even go into the self-help section in a bookstore. And so honestly, this is actually why I'm so passionate about sharing everything I learned and sharing my stories and sharing research that I find helpful, because I didn't have access to that shit, guys, when I was in trouble. And thank God I had such a colossal breakdown. I ended up in a therapist chair at the age of 25, which was 38. How many years ago? 30 years ago. Jesus, I'm old. Okay. But this is your comeback story. Here's the profound insight that I gained during this period of my life. And I also want to say something else. My journey to heal did not end with that therapist. I have worked on myself for the last 30 years. And I will always work on myself because it's a form of growth. And even in just the last year alone, I have had extraordinary new experiences with plant-based medicine, with guided MDMA therapy, with ketamine therapy that has worked wonders on my nervous system. And I can't wait to tell you all about it and share resources with you. And so I am constantly growing and learning. But that breakdown in my life at the age of 25, after a miserable, horrible train wreck of 3 years as a law school student, so fucking unhappy, so broken, so beaten down, so lost, that was the beginning of that line in the sand and saying, I am going to take responsibility for who I become and what happens next. And here's one of the profound insights that I've gained, everybody. You ready? When you think you've messed up, you start to hate yourself. And when you hate yourself, you inevitably do things you hate. And so that thought that I've messed up and that thought I hate myself, it begins a downward spiral. Because when you hate yourself, you do things you hate. But here's the cool thing. The opposite is also true. When you love yourself, you inevitably do things you love. When you treat yourself with respect, you do respectable things. And when you celebrate yourself, you do more things worth celebrating. And as I talk about extensively in this book, The High Five Habit, you can change whenever you decide you want to change. You could do it right now because you have the ability to identify your past experiences and the past programming that you no longer want to hear or be controlled by. And when you identify these patterns of thinking and behavior that no longer serve you and that make you feel things you don't want to feel, when you identify the pattern, you can work to break them apart and to replace them with a new pattern. And your brain loves patterns. Interrupting all of those self-loathing feelings that you have, all of those self-loathing thoughts that you have, all of those like just body sensations that take you to a low place of shame and regret and failure and feeling like you're not worth anything. I have been there. I have lived there. When you interrupt those feelings and those body sensations and those thoughts, what's going to happen is by interrupting those thoughts, it'll force you to see the truth. And the truth is, you're not broken. You're just blocked. You may have done some things that are pretty bad. I know I have. But you're not a bad person, and neither am I. And even in the periods of my life when I was acting like a train wreck, the truth is, I just felt wrecked internally because of the trauma and because of the programming that was in my mind, body, and spirit from surviving situations in my childhood. You didn't know how to act differently when you were little. And I didn't know how to act differently when I was in law school. Because you didn't understand what a critical role your constant negative thoughts, your past trauma, and your upbringing have on you, and how you think and what you feel and what your triggers and patterns are right now. And you know what? I didn't understand what a critical role my negative thoughts, my past trauma, and my upbringing and past experiences had on me, and how it led me to all those self-sabotaging behaviors that made me feel like a train wreck. So what's the path forward? Well, step one, forgive yourself. Right now, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for all the things that you did while you were just trying to survive. I forgive myself for ghosting the Attorney General of Michigan. I forgive myself for calling that law firm in New Mexico and lying. I forgive myself for not being strong enough to seize the opportunities that life was presenting. I forgive myself for cheating on people that I deeply cared about. I forgive myself for struggling with anxiety and childhood trauma for decades, too long, because I didn't know any better. When you can forgive yourself and accept what has happened and understand that if you had known better, you would have done better, but you did the best that you could with the programming that you had. You were just trying to survive. If you can forgive yourself, now you're ready for the next step. And that is to go to work to silence and then evict that fucking bully that lives in your head. In case nobody else tells you today, let me, Mel Robbins, tell you, I love you, I believe in you, and your ability to change your life and your future for the better. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to remind you of that all change, profound, personal, professional change, it starts with you. And that's good news, because that means you're ultimately in control of what happened next. All right. High five, everybody. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe, because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you, so make sure you subscribe. Mwah.